Hello and welcome to Weekly China Recap. I'm your host, Xing Ming. This week, we begin with a major climate and policy announcement from China's top leadership. In a significant announcement at the United Nations Climate Ambition Summit, Chinese President Xi Jinping laid out China's updated 2035 Nationally Determined Contribution, or NDC, an enhanced roadmap for tackling climate change, with targets that go well beyond previous commitments. Under this new NDC, China aims to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions across the entire economy by 7% to 10% from its emissions peak by 2035, with the goal of striving to do better. Several quantitative targets were also announced. Non-fossil fuels will account for over 30% of total energy consumption. Wind and solar power capacity will reach more than 6 times the 2020 level, targeting 3.6 billion kilowatts. Forest stock volume will exceed 24 billion cubic meters. China's national carbon market will expand to cover all major high-emission sectors. This upgraded 2035 goal will likely include more binding targets across sectors like industry, energy, transportation, and construction. Local governments are already being asked to integrate ecological indicators into performance evaluations. This shows how climate action is moving from top-level slogans to concrete mechanisms of implementation. This marks the second official update of China's NDC since the Paris Agreement. The first was in 2020, when the now well-known targets of carbon peaking by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060 were introduced. This new 2035 vision not only strengthens those commitments, but also deepens them, both in scope and ambition. China's plan isn't just about global climate responsibility. With demand for clean air, livable cities, and a stable climate growing rapidly at home, this is a domestic imperative. As the world's largest energy consumer and manufacturing economy, China needs new engines for sustainable growth, and the renewable energy is expected to become the backbone of meeting incremental energy demand over the next 5 to 10 years, all while keeping the economy on a stable growth path. This move is both ambitious and strategic. In the face of rising geopolitical tensions and global skepticism, China is not stepping back from decarbonization. In fact, it's leaning in, not because of international pressure, but because 1.4 billion Chinese citizens demand a healthier, greener, and more livable environment. Unlike the anti-climate rhetoric coming from certain quarters, including the United States President Donald Trump, who recently called climate change a hoax, China is proactively greening its growth model, leveraging its global leadership in solar, wind, and battery technology. And this isn't just about moral leadership. It's a strategic economic move. As AI accelerates and manufacturing enters a new era, the clean energy race will define winners and losers. China clearly wants to lead from the front. This week's second major development was less about policy but more about logistics, but it's equally significant. In a milestone for global trade logistics, China officially opened the world's first regular Arctic container shipping route to Europe. This route dramatically shortens shipping time compared to traditional sea lanes. On September the 23rd, a vessel named Istanbul Bridge, carrying $200 million worth of goods, including photovoltaic modules, energy storage cabinets, and cross-border e-commerce cargo, departed from Ningbo-Zhoushan Port and set course for Felixstowe, the largest container port in the UK. The voyage, expected to take only 18 days, marks the launch of the China-Europe Arctic Express, a faster, more direct trade link between Asia and Europe. With a capacity of nearly 4,900 TEUs, Istanbul Bridge is blazing a path through the Bering Strait and over the top of the world, a move that could revolutionize shipping timelines and reduce carbon emissions through shorter routes. The timing couldn't be more symbolic. Just as Poland closed its border with Belarus, effectively choking the major rail corridor of China Rail Express, or CR Express. China unveiled a new maritime option that bypasses both overland tensions and traditional choke points like the Suez Canal and the Strait of Malacca. The China Railway Express is a cornerstone of the Belt and Road Initiative's land-based trade with Europe. In 2023 alone, CR Express ran 19,000 trains, moving 2.07 million containers worth over 25 billion euros, with over 85% of them transiting through Poland. With railroads constrained and geopolitical friction increasing, China's investment in Arctic maritime access represents a strategic de-risking move, enhancing supply chain resilience and lowering costs. Of course, challenges remain. Arctic shipping is seasonal and faces environmental scrutiny, but the long-term implications are clear. China is reimagining trade connectivity with Europe in ways that are faster, greener, and geopolitically safer. From climate ambition to logistic strategy, this week's two developments are deeply connected. Both underscore how China is responding to an increasingly complex global landscape, not by retreating inward, but by restructuring its system for the future. For those observing China from the outside, it's worth remembering that things often move slowly until they don't. Signals turn into systems, and systems turn into standards. So when you see new policies, new routes, or new goals, don't just read headlines. Ask what's underneath. Because China isn't just reacting to today's challenges, it's quietly but methodically shaping tomorrow. That's it for this week's Weekly China Recap. I'm Xinzheming. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.